My girlfriend said, "I'm not cutting off my ex. You need to accept that." I nodded. "All right." She smiled, relieved. "See? I knew you'd be mature." I added, "I'll just remove myself from this situation." She frowned. "Remove yourself how?" I replied, "You'll understand soon. I'm 35, and I've been in my fair share of relationships, enough to know what's normal and what's a red flag dressed up as friendship." We'd been dating for about 14 months when this conversation happened. Things had been good, or so I thought. We had our own places but spent most nights together. The kind of relationship where you start talking about future plans without it feeling forced. Her ex was always there, though, in the background, little comments here and there. He texted me something funny today. He's going through a rough time, so I'm just being supportive. I tried to be understanding at first. I'm not the jealous type. I believe exes can be friends under the right circumstances. But the circumstances weren't right. It started bothering me about 3 months ago. The frequency of their contact increased. Late-night texts that she'd laugh at while we were watching TV. Lunch meetups that she'd mention casually like they were no big deal. Phone calls that she'd take in another room because he needs advice about something personal. I noticed she'd check her phone constantly when we were together. At dinner, during movies, even during conversations. Her attention was always divided. I'd be telling her about my day and she'd glance at her phone mid-sentence. When I'd pause, she'd look up and say, "Sorry, what?" with this distracted smile. Last Tuesday, I finally brought it up. We were having dinner at her place. She'd made this pasta dish she knows I love, and her phone kept buzzing. Every time she'd glance at it and smile. "Is that him?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Yeah, he's telling me about this thing that happened at his work. It's actually hilarious." "You talk to him a lot." She put her fork down. "Is this going to be a thing?" "I'm just noticing a pattern. We're friends. I've told you this. Friends don't text each other at 11 at night multiple times a week. He's going through stuff. I'm being supportive." "What kind of stuff?" "Personal stuff. He's struggling with some things." "And he can't talk to anyone else about it?" She crossed her arms. "Why are you being like this?" "Like what? Concerned that my girlfriend is more emotionally available to her ex than to me?" "That's not fair. I'm plenty emotionally available to you." "Are you? Because lately it feels like I'm competing for your attention." She sighed, one of those long, dramatic sighs that's meant to communicate how unreasonable I'm being. "I'm not cutting him off. He's important to me. You need to accept that." I sat there for a moment, looking at her, really looking at her, and I realized something. She'd already made her choice. She was just waiting for me to fall in line. "All right," I said quietly. She seemed surprised by my calm response. "Really? Just like that?" "Yeah, I accept it." She smiled, visibly relaxed. "See? I knew you'd be mature about this. This is why I love you. You're so understanding." "I'll just remove myself from this situation." Her smile faded. "Remove yourself how?" "You'll understand soon." Update 1. The conversation ended awkwardly after that. She kept pressing me on what I meant, but I just said I was tired and needed to go home. She seemed confused and maybe a little worried, but she let me leave. I drove home in silence, my mind clearer than it had been in weeks. I wasn't angry. I was just done. There's a difference between jealousy and recognizing when you're not a priority. I'd been trying to convince myself that her relationship with her ex was innocent, that I was being insecure. But I wasn't insecure. I was being disrespected. When I got home, I sat in my car for 10 minutes, just processing everything. The apartment building was quiet, lights flickering in various windows, other people living their lives, dealing with their own problems. I wondered how many of them were in relationships where they felt secondary, optional, like a convenience rather than a choice. I went inside and made a decision. I wasn't going to fight for her attention. I wasn't going to compete with her ex. I was just going to quietly extract myself from the situation and let her figure out what she'd lost when it was too late. Wednesday morning, she texted me, "Are you mad?" I replied, "No." "Then what did you mean last night?" "Exactly what I said." "That's not an answer." I didn't respond. She called me during my lunch break. I let it go to voicemail. She called again an hour later. Voicemail again. Then came a string of texts. "Can we please talk?" "You're freaking me out." "Did I do something wrong?" "Why are you being like this?" I went about my day as normal.